Heading out from Starbase 24, we're moving into the neighbouring sector of the Riser sector, and the first stop on our tour is the Voyager system, the site of several Federation player introductory missions. Voyager Colony was in fact one of the earliest settled worlds by humans in the late 21st century, and was settled by both Deltans and humans. However, it was also targeted for assimilation by the Borg in 2409, and to this day remains a shadow of its former self. For now, we cannot patrol or enter the system, so we move on to our next stop, Riser. The resort world is one that hosts regular events and festivals that you can take part in every so often, but many simply come here to enjoy the views and kick back to relax on shore leave. The tropical planet is regulated by a powerful weather control system, and the native Resians are mostly welcoming to all the visitors, and the wealth that their reputation brings from all over. Although a Federation world, Riser's resorts are not simply for UFP use, but are open to all. It offers little in the way of strategic value, and fortunately it has been spared in almost every conflict. The Dominion never touched it, the Klingon War of 2405 never saw it as a target, and the Iconians left it alone too. So, a couple of days of shore leave I had here, and then we move on with our patrols. The Tazi system is a single Class O world with 4.6 million inhabitants, the Tazani. The system is not a Federation member world, but a petition to join was submitted in 2408 and is under review. There is a Federation geology station in orbit of Tazi, focused on scientific research that works alongside the Tazani Science Ministry, and this is cited as the reason for their desire to join. Currently, however, there are renegade Klingon forces taking shelter in the asteroids around Tazi, using this to hide their emissions. Our mission is rather simple, as with many of these patrols. We're to drive them out. It would not be a good look for the Federation to allow this potential member world to fall victim to Klingon raids. Let's hope that they were not drawn here because of the Federation station, but their presence has made it difficult for the geologists to continue their work in the asteroids surrounding Tazi. Once we are sure there are no Klingons left, we signal the station, they give us their thanks, and we leave. The next system is Omar. Omar 2 is a Class F planet, and while uninhabitable to humanoid life, it is possible that silicon-based organisms could exist here. The rings and rocks around Omar 2 are flush with deuterium and dilithium, so of course the Federation has a starbase here to manage the automated mines. Unfortunately, like the nearby Tazi system, the Omar system has a problem with some renegade Klingons. Basically, they too have noticed the rich deposits of deuterium and dilithium and muscled in by setting up their own automated facilities. Our goal here is to destroy the Klingon defenders of these installations, probably leaving the mines themselves intact to be removed, or I guess utilised at a later date. Once done, our next target is the Amarga System, which has a repeatable patrol mission as part of the holographic Stance's response to the whole Ja'ula affair. We won't be covering that again, so instead let's move to the Briar Patch. This area of space spreads into the neighbouring sector of Kasei, and it's a level 6 hazard to navigation. It holds high levels of metaphasic radiation, has Metreon gas supernova fragments, and false vacuum fluctuations. We have conducted several missions within here already, one of them is a repeatable one. The next stop on our route is the Nukara System, which does also feature a patrol mission too, which apparently I've already done, and it's not repeatable, so I wasn't able to do it again, but we basically stopped the Klingons from obtaining our supplies of decalithium, because that can be refined into red matter. So, next up is the Darnia System, which serves as a lesson for regulating all greenhouse gas emissions. As of now, it's only known as a waypoint for traffic passing through, hence the reason there are now Gorn lying in wait to ambush potential wayfarers. Darnia suffered a runaway greenhouse gas effect, caused by intense industrialisation and deforestation. Over 200 years, the temperature increased by 10 degrees and left their world to perish. In 2380, the Federation evacuated the last remaining survivors from their dying world. Even though it is now technically an uninhabited system, we can't exactly let the Gorn plunder whoever passes through. With their presence in this system diminished, we're free to move on to the next, and this sees us crossing into the Aldebaran sector. This system is also known as Alpha Tauri and is an inhabited system which saw diplomatic ties with Earth dating back as far as 2135. It has lots of dangerous wildlife, as well as a renowned music academy, and exports Aldebaran whiskey. In-game, the zone is host to PvP battles, player versus player, which we're not taking part in today. Instead, we pass by another Deep Space Federation outpost. This station is one that, if you belong to a certain fleet in-game, becomes your home base to upgrade and operate. What we can do is stop by Deep Space K7, a station that was built in the 23rd century and now home to one Commander Naomi Wildman and Captain Mackenzie Calhoun. It has been relocated to orbit of Sherman's planet for the Klingon War of 2405-09 and was almost on the front lines of that conflict. As such, many of its missions are centred around battle, and its officers retain a distrust of the Klingons. The station's history is an involved one. In the 2260s, it was the depot for terraforming efforts and was the site of the 2267 Triple Outbreak. It was also the site for, albeit unsuccessful, negotiations between the Gorn, Norsicans and Klingon Empire. We have been here before and utilised its computer systems during the Davidian incursion of Drozana Station. Originally, this was also the site where you could find Commander Icheb, who was the XO of the station. However, with his death in Star Trek Picard in 2386, he was removed from the game. While Star Trek Online is not set in the Prime continuity, it does make every effort it can to adhere to that first and foremost. The removal of Icheb, however, does suggest that this is most definitely not the first Splinter timeline. Yes, there's a lot of timeline shenanigans going around in the Apocrypha of Star Trek. Next up is the Zyball System, which was on the front lines of the Klingon-Federation War and saw much combat. It is now currently still a PvP area. The Amarga System 2 is another combat zone and one that has a great deal of traffic thanks to all its habitational areas. But that covers the Aldebaran sector, so we travel to the next neighbouring one, the Voyager sector, starting with the Gamma Okana system, which holds one of the Federation's prisons, Penal Colony 47. Unsurprisingly, during the Federation-Klingon War, this place was raided by Klingons who freed their prisoners. Next up is Voyager itself. This is the site of more PvP actions, and the constant battles on this arid world have destroyed much infrastructure, seeing buildings recreated for defensive purposes and jury-rigged defensive areas. We are now heading into Klingon space, leaving the fringes of Federation territory behind us, and as such there are less patrol missions to undertake around here because, well, quite frankly, it's not our space to patrol. There is also the Trailus system, which houses some listening outposts on the very edge of our space, and that's the starting point for the Measure of Morality questline. Beyond this sector is deep space, and we're not allowed to go out that far without filing all the appropriate paperwork and getting missions underway. That's the purview of 5-year exploratory missions, not routine patrols. So instead we pass Starbase 157 into the Boreth sector. We have spent plenty of time at Boreth, but as a Federation ship we're not allowed to just enter the system whenever we feel like, only when we have business or are summoned by the monks there, neither of which we can say we are fortunate enough to have received today. But as we approach the Alhana system, we receive a distress signal. Sounds like this system, a trinary blue star system, houses military development sites from the Federation, which understandably puts the Klingons on edge. But that is not the issue today. The Cardassian True Way, remember them, are still around and causing issues. There's a privately owned deuterium refinery in this system that sells its produce to both the Klingon Empire and Starfleet. The reserves are kept in these stationary tanks nearby to the dock, and it's all run by a Ferengi overseer called Borka. He complains that since he got involved with Starfleet he's had no end of trouble as he's now become a target. He could just be saying it's our fault that he has a target on his back now to elect our mercy and cooperation in aiding him, but either way it's the right thing to do. We drive off the True Way forces that are attempting to plunder his merchandise. We fend off several ships, protecting the reserves until the leader of this raid, some Cardassian commander whose name we can't even be bothered to learn, informs us that our deaths will be meaningless. So he exploded. Borka calls in to thank us for our timely defence, but of course, in typical Ferengi fashion, points out that it's still going to cost him damages to repair the tanks that did take a couple of hits. But overall, job done, and we can leave. Areas like this are a reminder that not every mine and outpost out there is Federation owned, but the Federation is a superpower in its own right and can make waves in the galactic scene, so it does reach out to private people who own their own installations to purchase and trade commodities. Along our flight path we noticed an unsurveyed comet, so we take some samples, some readings, log it, and move on. No omnipotent extra-dimensional entities within this one, fortunately. We fly back through the system of Starbase 157 after surveying Bepi 113, which saw the STOSS mission, episode 75, Focus 3, which saw our mission in episode 129, and the Nukara System, which features a Borg presence where they cannibalized a moon to create their space facilities. We can't enter that one as it is another PvP zone. What we can enter though is the Nukara System. Nukara was covered in the episode 89 Prelude, but it's a Class Y planet, or Demon class, where the Tholians can walk around in their native form unimpeded. They have captured a Mirror Universe Odyssey-class starship here, and have been holding its Terran crew as prisoners. I think we'd be happy to let the Tholians have this planet, but we can't really let them take a bunch of humans prisoner, Terran or not, and we definitely can't let them have their hands on an Odyssey class. Drozana Station is up next as we leave the Boreth system behind us. The station was the focus of the Spectre's story missions, covered in episodes 71 to 75 of my playthrough, and is another independent hub that has ties with both the Federation and the Klingon Empire. It marks the crossing area back into Federation space, but the station itself is originally of Starfleet design but has changed hands many times over the years. It's currently in the hands of this independent Ferengi.
Welcome to Drozana. You're cleared for docking. We have everything you need for shore leave, and a few things that you didn't even know you wanted. Shopping, drinking, dining, entertainment. You'll find it all here. And don't forget the 77th rule of acquisition. If you break it, I'll charge you for it.
The other systems in the Donna 2 sector block are another Spore-related mission that is part of the Discovery questline, and the Cursor system, which was a Klingon world attacked by Cardassians in 2333 and is now a highly militarized Imperial outpost. So for now, we'll resupply and conduct maintenance from Drozana Station. The issues with the Davidians that plagued Drozana have been dealt with, but those hauntings have lingering effects, including the periodic glimpses at their ghostly forms. Maybe they're really still here. Or perhaps it's a holographic trick in an attempt to recapture some of that mystique. For now, that is over an hour's worth of patrols condensed down into a 12-minute video. I would like it to have been longer, but as you leave Federation space, there are less patrols to do. I'm also not just going to bloat the video by covering topics I've already talked about, so thank you for watching these patrols. I'll see you next time for more side quests from Star Trek Online. Until then, I've been Rick. Thanks again, and goodbye.